Sloan, one of the top real estate agents, not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Welcome, Blake Sloan, Real Estate Show. Awesome new show this week. All kind of stuff going on. Lots of things happening across the interest rate world. Interest rates, we hit a 1.5 year low just 2 weeks ago, then back up again, getting back close to 7%. We'll talk about what's happening with that, what that means, and how much that slowed down. We'll also talk about what's behind that overall. We also have the brand new market numbers in for anybody that missed last week's show. They're very, very interesting. Some decline. We saw a significant decline for resale homes for the first time in a while. And the good news is prices holding up pretty strong. Condo market's down significantly. We'll talk about that and kind of what those means. Even price, we're seeing decline a little bit in the condo market as well. We also have a seller checklist for getting your home ready to sell. That's one of the questions you get a lot. And I tell you, there's a lot of small, easy things that you can do that we even loan our clients to be able to do things like pressure washing, small stuff that help create a little more brightness, a little more openness, and a little more curb appeal to help get that maximum dollar. But you always want to get something that's a really good ROI. We'll talk about that. Also, some amazing success stories. Our team's absolutely crushing it. Our investment fund did pick up one more property from somebody who just wanted an instant cash offer for convenience out there. And that's something that we've been really ramping up as I represent a big investment fund with millions of dollars that will just buy properties out cash, as is super simple. And the good news is, and the difference from everyone else, it's a much more fair offer because we're a licensed real estate agent, licensed real estate company. And it's a much different than a lot of these wholesalers and things like that. We'll talk about what those were as well overall. Like I said, awesome success stories. We'll talk about that. A lot of great stuff on this show. If you ever want to come back and listen to them, just go to YouTube. We stream on YouTube. Just type in Blake Sloan Radio Show. We also stream it, put on your favorite podcast platform, whether it be iTunes, Spotify. Just type in Blake Sloan Radio Show. And you can also go find it on Facebook. Follow me or follow Sloan Realty Group. But lots of great stuff on today's show.
Give me an update on just who Blake is. Amazing story. Industry leaders have dubbed him the real estate whiz kid. Been featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, NBC, Realtor magazine, and many other national publications. He has been personally endorsed by Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck. One of those by itself is an accomplishment. But all of them together is unprecedented. Last week, we learned a little about how you and your team work and how a good portion of your success has come from the trademark systems you have developed to help both buyers and sellers here in our market. Recap quickly for anyone new to the show what those are exactly, and a quick overview of how they work, Blake.
Absolutely, especially when you're talking about your largest asset. And like I mentioned, I made a promise to myself years ago that I'd talk about this exact thing on at least every show for a few minutes, because it's by far the number one mistake that anyone makes over and over and over. One of the success stories today was someone who had their property listed with a, quote, friend who was an agent, and they almost lost the opportunity to get the house they wanted to be in because they did not get the job done. If you remember last week's show, we talked about a national study that we went over, and we'll kind of rebrief it for anybody that missed it. But 47% of all online web leads to real estate agents went unanswered. So people basically did a huge study all across the entire country, and 47% of the time, no one even answered the online inquiry where a buyer was trying to buy their house. And so what most people do is they make this huge mistake. And so the mistake they make is thinking that all real estate agents are the same, and it could not be any further from the truth, right? Just like any doctor, any lawyer, any person that waits on tables, right? It's like saying all waiters or waitresses are the same. It's not, even close to that, but for some reason, everyone tends to look at real estate agents as a commodity. And like I mentioned, it could not be anything further from the truth, right? If you're charged with a crime you didn't commit, or somebody, let's say, God forbid you hit somebody with your car, or in them, they try to sue you for everything you own. You don't want just a part-time attorney who's tried a few cases or who's a friend of yours, right? You want the absolute best, most aggressive attorney who specializes in that type of law that gives you a competitive advantage in the courtroom. And you should demand that same level of excellence for your largest asset. But I see over and over and over, and really I can tell that by number one, the horror stories that we hear over and over and over. Number two, people who call in the office and just the questions they ask, right? They tend to ask the wrong questions, like how much you charge or, whatever it is. Nothing that really is the right questions that helps people understand that there's a massive difference in agents. And just because it's a service-based business, right? What most people realize, there's 118 different variables from A to Z when you're selling your house. So if each one of those is handled correctly, it puts money in your pocket, property gets sold. Anything's handled incorrectly, aka they drop the ball at any point. And that could be anything like, do they respond to web leads online when somebody tries to buy your house? What's the quality of their photos they have? What's the order of the photos? How long does it take them to call somebody back if they call in, or do they answer the phone when somebody calls in? What's the pricing strategy, negotiation strategy? All these things make or break the home sale. What most people tend to do is just list with any average agent. And the problem is the average agent in our marketplace sells 4 homes per year. That's 1 per quarter. There's not a whole lot of money to eat with, much less spending marketing dollars to get your home differentiated. And so what tends to happen is people give their hard-earned equity away. They'll spend 20, 30 years building hard-earned equity, but only 15 minutes picking an agent, and they tend to lower the price or negotiate from not being in a position of strength, and it costs them their hard-earned equity over and over and over. So when I got in the business, I was like, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. When I started out as a cold banker, me and 200 agents, they didn't care about me. I didn't care about them. And that was one of those things that I learned very quickly. It was dog eat dog, and we were all under the same brokerage, but they didn't really care to work together. And so I was like, man, there's got to be a better way to have alignment. And what I found was pretty much every agent industry since the late 80s really kind of does the same thing, the 3 Ps. Number one, they promise the world to get the listing, meaning they'll tell you anything and everything to get the listing. Usually they're number one. I've talked to all agents, they're always number one. And then also the second thing they do is they put it into MLS, which is the multiple listing service. And 3, they sit back and pray that someone else brings a buyer. Meanwhile, they're on the street getting the next listing because they're trying to survive in the business. And so they list the property, they get half the commission. They're okay with that. But the problem is right now, in today's market, roughly almost 50% of the homes aren't selling. And the ones that do are like really 150, 170 days on market, the ones that are. And so it's much longer they're sitting there. And so that's why the agent you choose matters so much. So when I got in, I was like, there's got to be a better way. And what got us featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, all those things, I flipped the old school business model upside down. And I created a team where it's a team of specialists where each person specializes in what they're good at. And so we have inside sales, we have outside sales, we have listing specialists, buyer specialists, we have in-house closing coordinators, in-house listing coordinator. And so every single person is a specialist in what they do. And we can really micromanage all those variables to make sure that we stack them right order to give our client a massive competitive advantage. And we back that up with technology. And so I designed this thing called the Guaranteed Sold System. It's the only proven system that sells twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. I designed it. It's exclusive to us, trademarked. We do license to some agents in other parts of the country, but it works very, very, very well. And it's designed to sell properties faster, but most importantly, get you the most amount of money for your home and how it's differentiated, how it's positioned, how it's negotiated to make sure you walk away with maximum amount of money in your pocket. On the flip side, for buyers out there, it's still a very difficult market to navigate, especially, right, if you have an agent who's not experienced. We have this thing called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Get your property access to foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation and purchase price, as well as the home inspection negotiation to get you that closing table successfully. And with any of those, we always want to be your real estate resource for life. We represent the client and help them after the sale, or if they want to get vendors. We're here to make sure that they get the absolute best deal, but more importantly, they're able to maximize their largest asset. And so if you take anything from today's show, is that the most important decision that anyone makes when they're dealing with real estate is the agent that you choose, because that person dictates the outcome so much. If you want to know more how it works, you owe it to yourself to investigate it. If you're thinking about selling, or your friend or relative say, look, you got to call my buddy Blake, 843-808-SOLD, or go to blakesloan.com anytime. I'll take a quick break. We'll be right back in a second. Hey, buddy, appreciate it.
I've been listening to you for years. The first time seeing you do an action is crazy.
Just kind of rolling with it, man. I appreciate you nailing it. So thank you. I appreciate it. You're doing great.
What I was doing, I used to go to the office and record.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of return can you expect from them? Here's what I'll say. Every seller's needs are different. Some need maximum convenience, and we live that every single time. Some need the most amount of money, and we have a program for that as well. We have a trademark program that gets sellers up to 5 to 10% more money than traditional industry methods. All right, great insight, and thank you for this update. All Blake Sloan today at 888-SOLD. That's 888-SOLD. Or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com. And consider your home sold.
Hi, I'm Barbara Buckridge. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, the only real estate agent you offer several options of home sales, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. If sellers have time crunch, you can agree to sell by a certain date after development, even rent.
That's great. And if the seller has a bit more time,
Choose our proven marketing plan and sell to the highest price.
work with my friend Blake Sloan and get the home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Brand new market update, all kind of stuff going on. It's been very, very interesting because we saw a huge drop in interest rates, which all kind of buyers jump back in. Then we saw rates climb back up the past 2 weeks. And so we'll talk about that. We have seen the new buyers under contract slow down just a little bit to the tune of about $23 million in an average everyday period. If you listen for a while, we track two important numbers on this show. And so I have one goal, just to help you know the market a little better, make better decisions for your largest asset. And that's really all we've been trying to do here for 15 years in January on the station. But the reality is there's two types of numbers we look at. Number one, the close numbers. That's what everyone kind of uses. So we look at what closed last month. The only challenge with that, if it closed last month, it went under contract 30 to 60 days prior to that. And so you don't really have a full-time pulse on what's happening. And so we track what we call the front windshield numbers. And that's like, hey, what's going under contract per every 7-day period? I track it every day in my office. It's by far the most important metric that we track because it allows me to push sometimes for sellers. So let's say we have a little more hot week than usual. We can push price a little higher because I'm really in tune with what's happening in real time. And so we kind of watch that and see, or if it's a little bit slower, we say, hey, let's don't be quite as aggressive from the front end if there's a little more competition. So it allows us to make sure we can slide in and differentiate that way as well. It just always helps pick strategy. Then we also break that down per neighborhood as well. But looking right now, and let's talk about the windshield numbers, like what's happening ahead of us, what went pending the last 7 days. And so in the last 7 days, there's 450 properties went under contract in the entire Grand Strand for $170,181,000, which is decent, right? We always talk about in the show, I like to be close or at 200 million per 7-day period. That means the market's rock and rolling. It has slowed down a little bit just from about 3 weeks ago. Last week's show was 458 properties. Week before that was 494. And that was down, about 7% last week. So it's pretty much, we've seen it drop a little bit since in the last 2 weeks. We've seen that number, which is 170 million, drop from 193 million down to 170. So you're about a $23 million deduction, but that's a lot over a 7-day period. You look at, and again, we're in a very interest rate driven marketplace. You see it bounce around based on where the rates are at, because that's when buyers jump back in who are kind of looking and stalking properties. But 170 million for fall market, still pretty good historically overall. Some big properties, one property at $2.8 million under contract, 4 properties over $1 million, 94 properties over 500,000. And we have seen inventory, which is the amount of homes for sale in Horry County, increased really the last month. We finally hit 1,400 properties on the market. And just to give you some context, during COVID, when the market was super crazy, there was like 300 properties. There were single-family resale homes in Horry County. Right now, today, 1,418 active single-family properties. Last week's show, we hit a new peak at 1,432. And the week before that was 1,390. So you can see it kind of bounce around, but we have hit that 1,400 mark, which is good for buyers out there. A little bit more inventory to choose from. We're still historically pretty low. It's still a seller's market, which we'll talk about in a second. But that's the overall resale market in general, and that includes condos and homes. If you look at the overall rear view mirror numbers, like what closed last month, for anyone that missed last week's show, we're down 9.3%. And so that's probably where we'll end up. Like I said, once you get to the 10th of a month, usually the data is pretty solid. But last month, there was 9.3% drop from the same month last year. So it compares September 2023 to September 2024 at 420 properties closed, 9.3% drop. One thing that worries me a little bit, we have seen a consistent drop since May. It kind of peaked out in May at 543, then it really dropped down to 483, and kind of seen the last couple months go down overall into 497 down to 420. And so that's something we'll keep watching. Again, it is seasonal, but if you look at the trend, it is softening a little bit, and some of that has to do with rates, where a lot of people feel that rates get back into the high 5s, very low 6s. You're going to see a lot more buyers jump back in. Median price is pretty much flat year versus year. Right now, the median price for single-family resale homes, which is pretty much what everyone owns and wants to know about, they're up 0.8%. So $373,000 is the median price. Average sale price up 0.7%. So we're not quite in the negative too much yet, which is great. It's at $480,523, which is great news. The one thing that's protecting price has been inventory. Right now, it's only 4.4 months of inventory on the market, which is a seller's market. Anything less than 6 months is a seller's market. Anything with more than 6 months of inventory is a buyer's market. And so it has climbed. It's up 41% from the same time last year. But the good news is overall, it's still a seller's market at 4.4. So if you go last year, to September is 3.1 months of inventory. And right now we're at 4.4. A healthy market is anywhere between 5 and 6 months of inventory, in my opinion, in my experience of doing this for 20 years. The one big challenge we're still running into is buyer traffic, and it is showings. And it's the biggest reason why if your property was listed and it didn't sell, obviously marketing does make a big difference, especially when there's a little more inventory. And so the major problem running into right now, and this is why properties aren't selling, it's all mathematics, right? If you understand business, understand metrics, I'm a big nerd for numbers, but we want to know, like, how do we win this game for our clients? And you have to understand what the numbers are. And so if you look at the showings per listing, the average showing per listing in MLS for a house, not a condo, is down 12.5%, and it only gets 3.5 showings per listing. And so the average MLS listing gets 3.5 showings. And that's important because the company that gives you access, you book all the showings through one central portal, MLS, and so they have all the data. But the problem is the amount of showings it takes to get a contract is 12. So almost 3 times as many showings, 3 to 4 times as many showings needed to get a contract than the average listing's getting. And so what's happening in many cases for most homeowners, they're listing a property with a friend or relative or whoever it is, or just some average, frustrated agent, and they put it on the market, it only gets 3.5 showings. The problem is you need 12 on average to get a contract. And so that's why marketing matters. That's why the agent you choose matters. And that's why you want to choose an agent who has a huge marketing budget, who has what we call buyers in waiting, and they can match up buyers to that listing and obviously push that amount. Because I've said this for years, is I can help you strategize how you want to set the listing up. I can help you kind of say, like, let's clean this up here, let's pressure wash this here, but I can't force a buyer to buy it. What I can do though is I can put a lot more eyeballs in your property. I can drive traffic to it online, and obviously that creates more people who click the button for a showing. And so if I can increase showing, right? If I could, let's say you get 10,000 views online, right? And I can create a 5 or 10% increase in the conversion rate there because my quality of photos are better, our response time is better, the way order the photos is better. All those things make a massive difference. Now you're getting more people in the property, and that's how you find the one that likes it and pulls the trigger. And we've learned that over the last 20 years, just understanding those numbers and using those metrics to guide our clients in the right way. And so that's a major problem. The average listing right now only gets 3.5 showings, but it takes 12 showings on average to get a contract. You can see the problem there very, very easily. In the condo markets have been absolutely crushed lately. We talked about that. We may do a whole show on that. I was about to just bring my insurance guy in and say, hey, let's talk about what some of the challenges are with condos right now. We've seen lots of special assessments. We've seen, HOA amounts go up significantly. We've seen a lot of buildings, like I mentioned, and one of the major kind of hidden charges people haven't really realized is that a lot of the insurance companies have paid independent third-party appraisers to go reappraise the entire complex, the entire building, and they're finding that they were underinsured, and so they're having them raise that amount that the policy covers, and obviously that increases the amount significantly because prices have gone up across the board. In some cases doubled, right, in the last 4 or 5 years. And so that's a challenge. We're seeing condos, we're seeing inventory flood the market. So condo market sales last month down 27% from the same month last year. So for example, if you looked at September 2023, there was 499 condo sales. Right now, 364 last month. And so we have seen prices decline there in the past couple months for condos. Condo prices from average sale prices down 4.5% at $274,438. Median price overall is up 2.1% at $241,000. But we have seen it switch to what we call a buyer's market. Inventory is through the roof. Condo inventory on the market is up 78% from the same time last year, which is huge. So there's 6.8 months of inventory, which means it is technically a buyer's market, meaning there's more listings than there are buyers out there. And so that's when you tend to see prices soften a little bit once it gets past that threshold. But the good news is holding pretty tight overall. That's the key there. We've just been really successful in selling a lot of condos lately by differentiating it, by making sure the photos are really good, by making sure that you can really sell what the benefits are of that building or that complex, that location. And you want to speak to buyers, right? What they're looking for, because there still are a good amount of people buying them. There's just a lot more competition than there was overall. The major problem there is buyer traffic is down significantly, down 33%. So the average condo listing right now in the entire MLS gets 2.0 showings per the entire time listed. That's 6 months on average. So you have a 6-month listing, right? There's only 2 showings the entire 6 months. It's very painful, right? That's something that you're seeing. And the major problem is, guess how many showings it takes to get a contract? It takes 8.6 showings on average to get a contract. And so that's something that you're running into, where the average listing gets 2, but it takes 8.6 to get a contract, you need 4 times the amount of traffic to get a contract than the average listing gets. You can see the problem there. That's why the agent you choose matters. That's why every detail matters, especially when you're talking about less buyers out there. It's just something you want to consider overall when you're thinking about that, and you're thinking about who do I choose as a real estate agent. And that's something we'll talk about as well. Really quick, in interest rates, that's what's kind of been driving a lot of this. We're in a very interest rate driven marketplace right now. Last week's show, interest rates are 6.26. Right now, 6.62. We saw a significant increase last week. It's kind of climbed, since then. We talked about a little bit why the jobs report came in. There's a lot of talk I've just watched online in the industry about, a lot of those jobs reports are absolutely not even close to being accurate. It's just ironic. Right before the election, huge job report, outperformance where everybody thinks it was going to do, at least what Wall Street thought it was going to do. And then what we notice has happened historically as the administration goes back and revises those job numbers later on. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens, right? The bond market did respond, though. Rates up 6.62%. I don't think anyone was expecting to see that that quickly after we saw what happened with the Federal Reserve reducing their rates, which usually indirectly affects mortgage rates. But right now, a 30-year fixed, 6.62%, a 15-year fixed rate, 6.16%, a 30-year jumbo loan, 6.75%, which is still not too bad overall. A 30-year FHA, 6.12%. That one did go up. It was in the 5s, which was nice. A 30-year VA loan, 6.15%. There's still low 6s, and there's still a lot of people making moves there overall. And historically, there's still pretty good numbers. We'll watch and see what happens. There's a lot of talk, obviously, about what happens going forward. There's a lot with the Federal Reserve and how they're predicted to the next 5 meetings are predicted to reduce rates. At least that's kind of what's happened. I can pull it up right now and kind of look. And so right now, there's an 87.4% chance that they're going to ease the rates on November 7th meeting. And so there's basically a 12% chance that it'll stay the same. And so that's pretty much what they're predicting. Hopefully we'll see that soften a little bit, and you'll see mortgage rates most likely will go down as that meeting approaches, as it always kind of builds it in right beforehand. And right now there's a 98% chance for the December 18th meeting that you'll see them ease rates as well. And so we'll keep watching that. If you're thinking about selling, I would tell you, I would do it a little sooner rather than later, because we're predicted for rates to go down in the future. I want to tee that up into this fall market because it's going to sell much better than it would before you get to January, February. We have a great window right now before it gets to the holidays, and so many people get paralyzed by the holidays. And so if you're thinking about selling, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD. We also have an amazing tool online. I spend $1,000s a month. You can go online, you get an instant home evaluation. It's very, very, very accurate. It pulls from every data source. You get an instant online cash offer. You can have your own portal where you can keep all your properties you own and watch real-time home equity, real-time comps all around it. It's on the main screen at blakesloan.com. Just type your address and you'll have that. We won't hassle you. We're just here to help serve you like we're doing here for a very, very, very long time. So we'll take a quick break. Right back in a second with our Hot Buyers Alert.
Get the highest sales price possible for a home. Tell the truth, Clay. Here in Myrtle Beach, that agent is our friend Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. If you need to sell a home and buy a new one, ask Blake about his guarantee. Get this, Blake guarantees to sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, or he'll buy it himself. And since you know when your current home will sell by and for how much, you can buy your next home without worrying about getting stuck with 2 mortgages. There's simply no other agent in the market who has a guarantee that will line up against what Blake Sloan can offer you. So when you're looking to sell and buy, he is your guy. Read nearly 750 5-star reviews by Googling Sloan Realty Group. Give Blake a call today and start packing. That's Sloan Realty Group. And tune in to Blake's shows Saturdays at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 11:30 a.m.
Hey, Myrtle Beach, it's lead singer of Master Flats. When I'm moving on, won the award for ACN Song of the Year, it struck a chord with folks who understand it's life-changing for many. That happens when it comes time to sell your home. If you're moving on, you want a real estate agent who will make selling your home easy and stress-free. An agent who's willing to let you out of the contract if you're not happy with their service. That's why in Myrtle Beach, I can tell you that Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group markets your home on a whole different level. Now listen, Blake is so confident in his ability to sell your home quickly and for more money that he guarantees to sell it or he'll buy it himself. If you're moving on, trust Blake to provide your family a stress-free home sale experience. Find Blake Sloan online at blakesloan.com, or you can call him at 843-808-SOLD. So start packing.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Radio Show. Hot Buyers Alert. My team and I work with a ridiculous amount of home buyers looking at properties here in the Grand Strand, Myrtle Beach area. You're from $250,000 to $4.4 million. If you're thinking about selling, contact us immediately. 843-808-SOLD. That's 843-808-SOLD. One thing we do on this show for a long time is to say, look, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We just say, look, here's how many active home buyers we have looking to buy. Where a lot of agents, they wait to get the listing, then they put the sign on the ground, then they start trying to find a buyer. With us, we spend right at six figures a month in marketing. Last month, right around $95,000 marketing from all across the globe. And so we have what we call buyers in waiting, and we make about 16,000 phone calls a week through our team to those buyers. And then we match up buyers and sellers because that's what we're in business to do, is to make money, right? Match up buyers and sellers, what you hire us to do as a home seller. And so right now, active home buyers that we have with a username, password account, 78,018 active home buyers. We just crossed that 78,000 mark. 78,018 active home buyers. Those aren't hits. Those are users who actually have a username, password account. Like right now, I have Lois from Atlanta, Georgia. I got Paula from Carmel, New York. I got Alexandra from Jacksonville, Florida. I got John from Baltimore, Maryland. Betty from Washington, D.C. Clyde from Denver, Colorado. Mike from Schenectady, New York, Rochester, New York, Salisbury, North Carolina, from all over the Northeast and obviously United States. And so we obviously know that's where a lot of people moving here are. So we target them online, and it works very, very well. So if you're thinking about selling, if you have a friend, relative, aunt, uncle, grandpa, grandma, if you like them, if you don't like them, say, look, you got to call my buddy Blake and give them my number. Save me your phone, because it's so much easier for us to be able to match up them, make sure they get great service from the beginning and not to fix it after something bad happens. And so that's just something that we hope you do. And just one thing we share, like, look, we're putting our money where our mouth is, and this is how many buyers we have right now. We usually show each seller, and it blows their mind. You can watch them search in real time. And so really quick, awesome success stories. Here's another example. Danielle, she was looking to move up to a larger home. She'd been using her friend who is a real estate agent. She was very, very frustrated, right? She basically needed better results. Thankfully, she heard about us, called us to list her home. We reached out. We identified the problem immediately, which was marketing and why it didn't sell. I designed the custom plan, launched our global marketing blitz, professional photos, virtual walkthrough. Immediately, here's the coolest part. We brought one of our buyers, just like I mentioned, from our team, one of our buyer's agents, brought their buyer to that listing. Boom, had it under contract within the first week, which is awesome. So luckily, Danielle, smart enough to not continue working that friend, came with us. And one thing I learned in this business, if you list with a friend who doesn't get the results, most time, guess what happens? You aren't a friend afterwards. And so not only that, they know a lot of your private business, and it just becomes very complicated. And so you want to make sure you don't gamble with the largest asset. Also, a big shout out to Jan. She owned a house in Surfside, just a couple blocks from the beach. It was beautiful, but she made a decision to downsize into a condo. She's getting a little bit older, and her husband passed away a couple years ago. Thankfully, she heard about us on the radio, decided to give us a call. We came in, met with Jan, shared with her how we had hundreds of buyers looking for properties just like hers. Designed a custom plan, launched our global marketing blitz, professional photos. In 3 days, drove massive traffic, had a full price offer on her home. She's able to move into a condo and put maximum equity in her pocket. And so that's what you want to do too, right? You want to think about selling, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD. You got 1 minute left overall. Checklist for getting your house ready to sell. 3 main things you want to do: make it inviting. Number 2, show it's cared for. And 3, boost curb appeal, right? Number 1 thing that I've noticed, pressure wash the outside. Is super simple. We loan our clients. Ours, we have multiple pressure washers they can use. Clean your vents and baseboards, open up the blinds, let light in, replace new light bulbs that you have overall. Make sure you vacuum clean the floors, wipe the windows, because it just looks that much better. We always minimize some personal stuff, tidy up any landscaping. That's mulch is super, super easy as well. And we kind of help you just give little things that get you the highest ROI. We don't really recommend major things, because most of the time you don't get a 2-to-1 return. We have certifications in helping sellers kind of identify what to do to get the most from a staging standpoint. In some cases, maybe touching up scuffs in the walls, things like that. If you want a free consultation, you want some free help on it, we're more than happy to help. And we just want to serve for the long term. Reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD. Or go to blakesloan.com. And if you have any questions at all about real estate, we're here to serve you. Reach out to us. Give us a call, 843-808-SOLD. We'll see you back here next week at the same time. Perfect, man. I appreciate it.